Venerable Sirs, friends, I'm thankful for inviting me to give this talk, and I'm also thankful to the Venerable for giving me a very graceful introduction. Let me express a few thoughts on this World Philosophy Day in mid-November. These thoughts come when I think about the forthcoming human, the general title or the general theme suggested for this discussion tonight. When you think of the emergence of humans, the Homo sapiens, some 400,000 to 500,000 years back in Africa, and maybe even in Western Asia bordering the Mediterranean and the Red Seas. The ability to make implements of labor was the principal difference of earliest man from animals. Their march, beginning with stone and bone implements, gaining language ability some 50,000 years back, and all this happening in prehistory. We have come a long way by today. We Sri Lankans participated in that march, which the Balangoda man, Homo sapiens balangodensis, traced to about 40,000 years back. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, man took off with hunting. Farming begins a little over 10,000 years back, a comparatively more recent phenomenon. And then the great civilizations come. Then the great civilizations come up around fertile river valleys in Egypt, the Nile, Asia Minor, Euphrates and Tigris, India, Indus and Ganges, and China, Huanghe and Yangtze. Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, that intellectual statesman who along with Gandhi led the Indian freedom struggle. And later, as Prime Minister of India, laid the foundations of modern India. In his poignantly written letters to his daughter Priyadarshani, that is Indira, from prison, which came up later in print as glimpses of world history, talks of these early civilizations. I quote from Nehru, "The earliest remains of human culture so far discovered take us back to beyond 5000 BC, that is to about 7,000 years ago. Egyptian history is supposed to begin then. It was the end of the age of stone. Archaeologists have discovered the early remains of a civilization dating from about 5000 BC in Chaldee or Elam, that is Mesopotamia. Most of the archaeological discoveries have been made in Egypt and in Mesopotamia because most of the digging has taken place there. These discoveries take us right across Asia, from Egypt, Chaldee, to Yellow River in Huanghe in China. In all these places, a common stage of development is found. It is the end of the age of polished stone and copper, and it's the end of age of polished stone, and copper is beginning to be used. There is agriculture, domestic animals, and trade, and tools of the same type, beautiful jewelry of gold and silver, and painted pottery. Writing had already appeared. It appears that a common civilization existed at this period about 5,500 years ago from Egypt to North India and China. Because of the common pottery, this has been called the painted pottery civilization. This civilization is already advanced. Its culture and fine arts so developed. This is the period of Mohenjo-daro in India with its fine houses and streets. In Egypt, of one state under the pharaohs. In Chaldee, on the banks of the Euphrates, stands the famous city of Ur, the Ur of the Chaldees. It is called in the Bible. From this common painted pottery civilization, four great Eastern civilizations, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, including Persian and Iranian, Persian or Iranian, Indian and Chinese, diverge and develop separately. This glimpse of the ancient man would put us in perspective to visualize the forthcoming human. Let me now skip. In the historical period, we have the Greek and Roman civilizations, the Aryan civilization in the Gangetic Valley. The Dravidians were pushed back, pushed down there, pushed south, and the Chinese civilizations. We skip through the ancient period and the Middle Ages. With the advent of modern science, in the modern period in European history, that is about 1500 AD, man and society underwent rapid changes. Europe at the end of Middle Ages had a resurgence, that is the Renaissance. Reformation followed. The church split broadly to Catholics and Reformists or Protestants. The scientific revolution ensues. Feudal economy was cracking. Ship travel to distant lands for trade, adventure and discovery, and commercial capitalism was taking over. Europe took over trade from the Arabs, colonized Africa and Asia, discovered America. In Europe, science revolutionized the study of disciplines with more and more specialization. Rapid development of industry and trade lead to the Industrial Revolution and the establishment of factories and its industrial centers. The expansion of cities, creation of dwellings for labor, changed the structure of habitation as well as society. New modes of transport and communication, the steamboat, the railway, motor travel, and finally air travel and telecommunication changed the world and man, not only in Europe, Americas and Australia, but also in Africa, Asia, with the oil-rich Middle East as well. And these were coming under the European spell. All these were coming under the European spell in one way or another. We were ourselves part of the empire on which the sun never sets. 20th century brought two world wars, socialist revolutions in two large countries, Russia and China, and the proliferation of nuclear weapons. It also brought travel to outer space and the moon and beginnings of satellite. Colonies, beginnings of satellite colonies. It brought electronic communication. It was a century which ended with globalization of science and technology, of industry and commerce, of scientific culture, creating the global village. It has brought cloning, organ transplant, artificial intelligence, and artificial life. Heart transplant began decades back now. Could there be a possibility of a brain transplant? One of the areas that forthcoming man would engage himself is artificial intelligence. Human level intelligence is in biological hardware. It happens inside our skins. Artificial intelligence will reach comparable levels and freed of biological constraints, machines might become more intelligent than human beings, as Alan Turing about 8 years ago predicted. Leverhulme Trust has got up a center to explore the challenges of future machine intelligence. The group is headed by Hugh Price, the first Burton Russell Professor of Philosophy at Cambridge. The Leverhulme Center for Future of Intelligence explores the ramifications of this potentially epoch-making development. The center brings together computer scientists, philosophers, social scientists, psychologists, lawyers, and others. Uses the resources from different disciplines and is formed as a collaboration of universities of Cambridge and Oxford, Imperial College in London, and the University of California at Berkeley. Hugh Price says, machine intelligence will be one of the defining themes of our century. And the challenge of ensuring that we make good use of its opportunities is one that we all face together. The center will bring together some of the best of human intelligence to help us to make the best of artificial intelligence. Along with the artificial intelligence, there is the onslaught into the study of consciousness. This is a problem which has resisted entry due to the very nature and the complexity of the problem. Would the forthcoming man make any progress there? But we must pause and take a look around. Have we overstepped? We have just had a UN conference on climate change held in Egypt. In the creation of massive industry and use of technology, we were perhaps blind to the fact that we are ruining the world ecosystem. Global temperatures have risen, oceans rise, equilibrium has gone, glaciers, ice is melting, ozone layer in the upper atmosphere is affected. We found leaders of the third world countries at this conference, one after another, requesting the developed West to take certain action to compensate. The matter is so urgent. It is now or never. The resources on Earth are fast vanishing. Alternative energy sources have to come. Alternative energy sources have to come. Solar power. We go back to the worship of the sun, back to Surya Vandana of the ancients. The cloning, the creation of artificial life, organ transplant, nuclear threat, misuse of electronic media, and where do we draw the line? And nuclear weapon confrontation is also never out of the picture. The threat is being recognized. Let me give one example. A few years back, the Cambridge University found the Center for Study of Existential Risk, an interdisciplinary research center with a focus on anything that may pose a threat to the very existence of the human species. The inaugural public lecture was titled Surviving the 21st Century. The sheer speed of our technological progress is exciting, but it comes with big risks. Synthetic biology, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence all have potential to do harm as well as good on a global scale. How do we navigate these unknown waters when the stakes are so high? It is this that the inaugural lecture at the start of this center tried to deal with. The discussion was led by the Burton Russell Chair holder, Professor Hugh Price, Professor Lord Martin Rees, the cosmologist and astrophysicist, and Master of Trinity College, Cambridge, and President of the Royal Society. And this research center will focus on anything that may pose a threat to the very existence of the human species. What can we do in the face of such unprecedented risks? The center directs some foremost intellectual power into this problem. Thus, opportunities and potentialities of the forthcoming man are intertwined with immense risk for humanity itself. Let me finish with a little story which will indicate both these sides and portray the dilemma of the forthcoming man. And in the story, It is a she who faces the dilemma. The story is a thought experiment. The introductory chapter in The Mind's Eye of Douglas Hofstadter and Daniel Dennett begins with it. I narrate it now. I quote from that book, The Mind's Eye. You see the moon rise in the east. You see the moon rise in the west. You watch two moons moving towards each other across the cold black sky. One moon soon passes behind the other as they continue on their way. You are on Mars, millions of miles from home, protected from the killing, frostless cold of the red Martian desert by fragile membranes of terrestrial technology. Protected by strain, for your spaceship had broken down beyond repair. You will never ever return to Earth, the friends and the family and places you left behind. But perhaps there is hope. In the communication compartment of the disabled craft, you find a telecron Mark IV teleporter and instructions for its use. If you turn the teleporter on, tune its beam to the telecron receiver on Earth, and then step into the sending chamber, the teleporter will swiftly and painlessly dismantle your body, producing a molecule by molecule blueprint to be beamed to Earth, where the receiver, it's the reservoirs well stocked with requisite atoms, will almost instantaneously produce from the beamed instructions you whisked back to Earth at the speed of light into the arms of your loved ones, who will soon be listening with rapt attention to your tales of adventures on Mars. One last survey of the damaged spaceship convinces you that the telecron is your only hope. With nothing to lose, you set the transmitter up, flip the right switches, and step into the chamber. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Flash. You open the door in front of you and step out of the telecron receiver chamber into the sunny, familiar atmosphere of Earth. You have come here, none the worse for where after your long distance telecron fall from Mars, your narrow escape from a terrible fate on the red planet calls for a celebration. And as your family and friends gather around, you notice how everyone has changed since you last saw them. It has been almost 3 years, and you have all grown older. Look at Sarah, your daughter, who must now be 8.5. You find yourself thinking, can this be the little girl who used to sit on my lap? Of course it is, you reflect, even though you must admit that you do not so much recognize her as extrapolate from memory and deduce her identity. She is so much taller, looks so much older. In fact, most of the cells now in her body were not there last you cast eyes on her. But in spite of growth and change, she is the same little person you kissed goodbye 3 years ago. Then it hits you, am I really the same person who kissed this little girl goodbye? Am I this 8-year-old child's mother? Or am I actually a brand new human being, only several hours old, in spite of my memories or apparent memories, days and years before that? Did this child's mother recently die on Mars, dismantled and destroyed in the chamber of a Telecron Mark IV? Did I die on Mars? No, certainly I did not die on Mars. Since I am alive on Earth, perhaps though, someone died on Mars. Someone died on Mars. Sarah's mother died on Mars. Then I am not Sarah's mother, but I must be. The whole point in getting into the telecom was to return home to my family. But I keep forgetting. Maybe I never got into the telecron on Mars. Maybe that was someone else, if it ever happened at all. Is that infernal machine a teleporter, a mode of transportation, or, as the brand name suggests, a sort of murdering twin maker? Did Sarah's mother survive the experience with the teleclone or not? She thought she was going to. She entered the chamber with hope and anticipation, not suicidal resignation. Her act was altruistic. She was taking steps to provide Sarah with a loved one to protect her, but also selfish. She was getting herself out of a jam, or so it seemed. How do I know that's how it seemed? Because I was there. I was Sarah's mother thinking those thoughts. I am Sarah's mother, or so it seems. In the days that followed, your spirit soar and plummet. You feel a little bit like an imposter and wonder what Sarah will think when someday she figured out what really happened on Mars. How could her own mother have deceived her all these years? Let us hope and wish that the forthcoming man is not ready for such dilemmas. Thank you.